अरे यार बहुत हो गया यार, अभी क्या इधर पिक्चर थोड़ी बना रहे हैं यार, अभी बहुत हो गया यार, अभी बॉस काम भी करने का है ना. His day job, he works for a very cutting edge media company called Vayner Media. Gary Vaynerchuk is his boss. हाँ भैया तोश, ये अभी ये ब्लॉकबस्टर नहीं होने वाला है, वो अमिताभ बच्चन का ये नहीं है भैया. You will screw up, but make sure that your mistakes are small.
Yeah, done bro, thanks. Hey boss, you had a question for me?
Yeah, I had a question for you.
Yes,
so why are you doing this podcast? I want to understand.
Okay, so I'll just give you a selfish answer and a selfless answer.
Okay.
Selfish answer is that I'm 18 years old right now.
Yeah.
And I am in a position where I want to learn from the best minds that I can get access to.
Okay.
So I'm wanting to be around the kind of people that I want to be and emulate. That's the selfish reason. The selfless reason is that I want to be able to provide. So I have friends as well, so which are very lost in life. They just pure din phone pe, they're scrolling, just doing mindless things. So I want, to be some kind of inspiration, though through not something. I don't think I'm doing something big right now, but it has to be, ki acha Shrey kuch kar raha hai. Maybe I can also do the same, and they can start changing their ways.
But is it like across various fields, or is it only architecture, or what is it, or across all fields?
Across all fields.
Across all fields. Nothing to do with architecture as such.
No.
Because I got your mail. You're talking to Reza and some other people also.
Yeah.
So just was wondering, it's nothing to do with architecture. If you want to get to people across all fields,
just people that I'm inspired by in general.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's the answer. So
we are all at our, at least I am, at the fag end of my journey. You need to, if you want to be inspiration, you should interview younger people and stuff like that. So so I'll tell one actually my selfish reason. He's not here, but you should interview my son actually.
Okay.
Varun. So he's actually not doing architecture. He's a musician.
Okay.
Based out of New York.
He's settled in New York.
Not settled. I mean, he's working. He's graduated from university in US, and he's actually. I'll show you his music. He's a rapper.
Really?
He's a rapper. Yeah, he's a rapper. His name is Mizuchi. His rap name is Mizuchi. You'll see him he's on Spotify and on iTunes and all that. So he works. His day job. He works for a media company, a large media company in New York, for a very cutting edge media company called Vayner Media.
Vayner Media?
Yeah.
Gary
Vayner. So Gary is his boss.
Really?
Yeah, so Gary is his boss. So Gary Vaynerchuk is his boss. Okay. So he works for Vayner Media, Monday to Friday. And weekends he pursues music. So he writes his own music. He DJs at some event spaces in New York and stuff like that. And he's really found his calling in life slowly, gradually. He's the sort of guy, because you said people are lost, no? He's the person you should actually talk to.
Definitely.
You should talk to him at some point of time. He's not here, he's there, but you should talk to him at some point of time. I'll introduce you, I'll give you his coordinates, mail him, and and stuff like that. I'll also just forward, if I have one or two of his interviews. He was interviewed by Rolling Stone magazine, Rolling Stone India, when his new album got released and stuff like that, and things like that. So you should talk to him. So he's the sort of person, who's really gradually over the years found his calling in life, and he's worked at it, He's worked at it. He's kind of chiseled away at, didn't want to be an architect. So which is the general tendency. People want to join their dad's business and all that. But he's...
And what about you? Did you want him to be an architect?
No, I didn't want him to be an architect. His passion, I want him to follow his passion.
How does one find their passion?
There is... I don't know, you can't, I don't think you can, I think finding passion is literally, like a discovery. By a discovery, I mean that you do what you do, and you kind of you have to enjoy what you do. You have to enjoy. You don't have to worry about. I firmly believe you don't have to worry about money or where the next this thing is going to fame or anything of that. You have to at the end enjoy what you do, and then the rest of it follows. According to me, it's not such a big deal. So I think you have to really find your, as I would call it, passion is one way of looking at it. You have to find your calling in life and stuff like that, that kind of a thing. So that's the way the world works and stuff like that, So I found my passion or calling, you're from Ahmedabad, I studied in Ahmedabad.
Yes, in CEPT.
At CEPT, so at that point of time, Doshi and Raje and some of these gurus. Doshi was one of my senior faculty.
Ask you.
Yeah, sure. You can ask me later on. Yeah, in the interview. Yeah, so I found my passion honestly at CEPT actually. Where I got into doing architecture. Because at that point of time when I was young or out of college, just first year, second year of college, we were in the old system where you had first year in 10th grade and then you had first year inter kind of stuff, not the 12th grade, but very similar to 12th. So after I finished my 12th grade, at that time, there were few choices that were there for most people. Either you did engineering or medicine or commerce if you were in business and stuff like that, that kind of thing. So I decided to pursue architecture, and if I guess if I had been in any other school, it would not have. I would not have found my passion. The passion I found is because of the campus, because of the faculty, because of the other students. There was a whole kind of at CEPT there was a whole kind of a culture, I would say, culture which talked about a certain kind of a idealism. And when you're 18 years old, you're 18 today and I was 18 when I joined CEPT. There's certain idealism, certain you're looking out for something. You see the great masters, a lot of examples of good architecture in Ahmedabad, from Corbusier to Louis Kahn to Doshi to Raje to various other people. So the idea really is that it's not something that you find overnight. It's something that you gradually kind of come to, and you enjoy it, and that's your, as I would call it, your calling in life. And then you keep chiseling away at it and stuff like that, and you kind of move with it gradually and things like that. Yeah.
Right. So was it the environment that made you find your passion? Because लोग तो ऐसे ही बोलेंगे कि they're just sitting at home all day. They're like, मेरा passion क्या है, मेरा passion क्या है, मेरा passion क्या है.
Yeah, but I don't think it works that way. See, unless you explore, things, you're not going to find your passion. Passion is not going to come to you. So how you find your passion is various ways. There's no right or wrong way. But I think one is, yes, you have to go out into the world. Number one, you can't sit at home and find your passion as if it's going to come in from some kind of supernatural power. You have to go out and explore things, and you will not like a number of things. You will like a number of things, and you have to slowly kind of keep working at it, as I would call it. So yes. One of the things I would say, and that's not a standard formula for everybody, but for example, when we were studying architecture at Ahmedabad, I think the environment and the people who started the school, the school was started with a lot of passion. Mr. Doshi, started the school, and not only Doshi, but there were a lot of other young people who are not as famous as Doshi, but the kind of people he managed to get together, the senior students, etc. When you're a first year student, you look up to the fifth year students. You look up to the alumni who had just graduated and stuff like that. Some of them had gone abroad to study. You kept hearing stories about them. That's how things work out. Even like similar thing happens like at an IIT, for example. So the big thing about IIT is that there are stories about the alumni who passed out. Even today, you go to IIT Mumbai. There are stories about Nandan Nilekani, who graduated out of there and stuff like that. So these stories keep going on and stuff like that. So yeah, so I think the environment plays a big role. The kind of people whom you kind of, at a young age you talk to, and exposure is important and stuff like that. So I think that's what it is.
Was B.V. Doshi a mentor to you, or did you just know him?
No. He was a mentor to a lot of people. I more than knew him, in the sense he taught me, and CEPT was a small faculty at that point of time. Today it has become a much bigger faculty. It's got various 5-6 schools and stuff like that. That time it was only 2 schools, School of Architecture and School of Planning. So he knew everybody. But in the final year, 4th year, he talked to students regularly and stuff like that. So I would say that I knew him quite quite well, because he taught me personally, and then remained in touch right through, even after we finished and stuff like that. And he was like in that sense, one of the few things that I imbibed from him is that he was always willing to, was very interested. He was a true, I would say, guru.
Architecture is storytelling. It's a journey. It's a dialogue. And it is a discovery of who you really are.
Guru at heart, he was always interested in what his students or what his ex-students were doing and in the world and stuff like that, very inquisitive and stuff like that. He was never this thing. So to the extent that, you won't believe it, when we were one of the architects designing India's first small crossroads that came up here at Tardev, which is now shut, but Tardev, this was in 1999, it opened. You won't believe it, when it got opened, it was big news for a lot of people because it was India's first mall, etc., etc. Of course, we were the local architects with a Singapore architect and things like that, but we had a significant role to play in it. But he actually called me up and said that, Kiran, I'm coming to Bombay, I want to see the project. Can you show it to me? So he came and I actually, walked him around the project and stuff like that. So that's the kind of relationship, and that's the kind of this thing that he had. He was always constantly, interested in what younger people were doing, which I think is important. So I would say he was. I wouldn't call him a mentor in that sense, but I didn't kind of go and talk to him about any professional help or anything of that sort after I finished. But we were in touch with each other, and we were good friends, as I would call, beyond a certain point of time. Because although he was much senior to me. But we were very, very good, good friends, and respected him a lot, and I owe a lot to the School of Architecture and him as to where I am today in terms of passion.
So he instilled that passion.
Yes. He amongst other people also, but yeah, not the only one. But yes, he was an inspirational figure, and anybody who went to school around that era. Anybody who went to Ahmedabad School of Architecture in that era, which is, I'm talking about the 70s actually, late 70s, early 80s. I was there from 78 to 84. So late 70s, early 80s, he was active in school. So, he had set it up and stuff like that. The school was set up in the late 60s. So by the late 70s, it was well settled, it was established, etc.
Before we continue, this podcast is sponsored by Arcadior. Arcadior is a one-stop solution for anybody that's building a hotel, mansion or a corporate space. They've done projects for the likes of Marriott in Indore, Taj Skyline in Ahmedabad, a few private residencies like this, and a few corporate offices in India and around the world. So if you are in need for any furniture or interior related artifacts, these guys are your solution. Now back to the podcast with Mr. Kiran.
So I graduated in 80, I finished school in 84 and I worked in Mumbai for a couple of years. And then 86, I just worked with another architect called Architects Combined. I worked as an architect for 2 years in Bombay. And then in 86 is when I went to Harvard to study my master's actually. So 86 to 88 I studied at Harvard. That was another kind of inspirational institute. The Graduate School of Design is one of the best architecture colleges in the US or probably in the world. Very, very well established. They get a lot of great faculty members. They have a lot of money, so obviously they can invite the best of people from everywhere and stuff like that. So the kind of people who you just kind of bump into in the corridor is not funny. Because of it being such a premier institute and stuff like that. So, and they had, like for example, at that point of time when I was there, the director of the architecture school, the architecture program, they had various programs. The architecture program was a guy called, a Spanish architect called Rafael Munoz. And Munoz then went on to win the Pritzker Award of Architecture, and very, very active practitioner. Plus just everybody, it's a big school. It had various programs at architecture. I was in the urban design program, but at architecture, urban design, landscape, planning, various schools. So it was a big school. Unlike CEPT, which was very small, this was a much bigger school. And so all people across, so lectures were held, exhibitions were held, the resources were quite fantastic, resources were quite fantastic. And you had students from across the, globe actually, as I would call it, who came to study there. And everybody, obviously then had a very, very diverse background. People came from very different backgrounds, So my class had, right from, young architects like me who had just recently finished. We had people from the Middle East, we had some people from China, very talented people with the hand, but couldn't speak much, but they also got to learn the language, and the communication was issue. So each one had their own kind of struggles and stuff like that. We had people from Europe, we had people from, obviously from the US. And at the other extreme, we even had somebody in our program who was actually, much older. He was like he was as old as my father was. So he had actually retired. He had sold his practice, an American. Now this happens in America. It was a big thing, never happens in India, but he had sold his practice and wanted to reinvent himself. So he came back to school to study for 2 years, He was literally even when I was in my late 20s, he was in his 60s when he came to study. He was the age of my father, literally. So that's the kind of, I'm just giving you the variety of people. People come for different reasons.
Exposure.
And more than that, people, so number one, you as a student then, at that age, you're like a sponge, So you learn from other people's experiences and stuff like that. A lot of people there also come in, mid-career people also come in, middle of the career when they want to shift actually. They want to do a big jump. A lot of people go back into academics. It's not, and now of course it's very accepted that people take mid-career breaks and go. At that time it was not that common, but so you take mid-career breaks like a sabbatical, you want to think back as to what else do I want to do with my life and stuff like that. So one way to do it is to go back to school actually, is one way of doing it, kind of a thing. So 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 apart from the faculty, your fellow students also at Harvard, we got a lot of exposure from them also, because they all came with very different cultural backgrounds, and experiential background, very different.
And was this the first time you moved out of India?
Yes. So first time, no, I had been just as a tourist, kind of, holiday with my parents and all that. Not really, but that was like 1 month you go, 10, 15 days you go, 20 days you go, and stuff like that. This was the first time that I was staying, for a long period of time. That was my first time going abroad. Yeah. As far as a student is concerned,
Were you able to fit in properly?
I don't think so. Coming from Bombay and the kind of exposure that one had, and also the kind of exposure that one overall had professionally also at Ahmedabad, because Ahmedabad I think is one of the better institutes, undergraduate institutes in the world. I would say one of the better ones. I wouldn't say the best, but one of the better ones. And fitting in was not a problem at all. Of course, there's some amount of you got to get used to the weather, which is Boston is cold. Unlike Bombay, one of the most difficult things that I kind of had a difficulty with was honestly speaking, the shortened day. You don't realize that in Bombay, Ahmedabad. Suddenly you finish lunch in the winter at 2 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, and then you go to the library, which doesn't have too many windows, and then you come out at 3:34. It's very dark, pitch dark, and stuff like that. So just a shortened day, because psychologically it makes a big. So you have to adjust to things. Yes, cold weather, wearing multiple kind of jackets and clothes and all that, which is not something that you're not used to in India. In most places in India, you're not used to it. Bombay, you're definitely not used to it. So but I think apart from that, I don't think culturally fitting in was a problem as far as people are concerned. Some adjustments, I guess, everybody has to do when you move to another environment. That would also happen if you move from Bombay to Ahmedabad, for example, or from Ahmedabad to Bombay, that kind of thing, pace-wise things are difficult. Yeah, so I think that wasn't a challenge in terms of anything. Adjustment was there, but it wasn't a challenge really yeah.
Now you're done with Harvard. Where do you go next?
So the first thing, after I got done with Harvard is I want to get some experience, in the US. Let me apply for jobs and stuff like that. See if I can get.
Your field.
In my field, because I'd done a master's by then. By that time, you're pretty clear that you want to be an architect, urban designer kind of thing. So I I'd done my architecture degree from CEPT, and then I did my masters in architecture from Masters of Architecture and Urban Design from Harvard, from the Graduate School of Design at Harvard, and then applied for jobs actually, and got a job in Boston for a while, working on some large projects with a firm and stuff like that. Worked with that for a little while, then for about 6-8 months. I got another offer for an interesting project somewhere else, in Princeton. So moved there for another year and a half. So I decided to kind of work in the US for a couple of years, kind of a thing. So that's what I did actually, just to get some experience and stuff like that. And close to 30 by that point of time, age-wise. And I said, now I need to kind of decide whether I want to, professionally, where do I want to really settle down. I had no family, or I had no real attraction that yes, I want to stay in America or want to come back. There's no pressure to come back to India either. The choice was completely mine, what to do and stuff like that. And things like that, without any kind of expectations or anything of that sort, I decided that I'll come back to India and start my own practice. Now I've got enough experience. I worked in India for 2 years before going. I worked for 2 more years after. Let's get into the kind of, as I would say, get into the deep end of the pool, and see how it works out and stuff like that, without any kind of expectations or anything of that sort, that I'm from Harvard or I need this or need that and stuff like that. So I came back to Bombay, and nothing, just my father was an engineer, so he had his own small office, so I just got a table in his office. He couldn't afford anything more than that and stuff like that, and started working on small projects which were not urban design projects. At that time nobody knew what urban design was, and nobody would give a young architect, a 30-year-old architect who had not built anything, any project. So you had to start off doing small projects. And
how did you find those first few projects?
Like everybody does, you through family contacts and stuff like that. It all starts off with some kind of family contacts. Did a couple of competitions and stuff like that. So that time you had a fair amount of time. You taught a little bit in school here and stuff like that, because the time was available. So you got known and stuff like that, and that's how it really works, and and stuff like that. So I just started doing. Of course, reaching out to people that I've just come back and this and that and stuff like that, and obviously people wouldn't mind at that point of time trying out a young architect who had come back from America for a small project, a house here, or some interior here, that kind of thing. And that's how things start off. Things start small for everybody, whoever you may be and stuff like that. Not that we had any phenomenal contacts or any as I would call it, a kind of a mentor professionally or something of that sort, who gave work, or any industrialist or anything of that sort. So it started off, very, very small, but at that point of time, your costs are also very small, You have a table space, you hire one person, or you freelance 1 or 2 people, and that's how it works out. So the risks are very minimal. There are very little risk, and luckily at that point of time, my wife, my girlfriend at that point, then my wife, my fiance at that time, my wife, she's in the financial field, so she she had a job at at a large firm in Mumbai, DSP, which then went on to become DSP Merrill Lynch. So she was, I would say, professionally more settled than I was. So one person being settled at least a little bit compared to both people trying to grope around makes a difference and stuff like that, a little bit of a difference, at least mentally. Yeah, so that's how it started, and then you have to work hard, deliver projects, not screw up. Clients have to be. I may have screwed up, but I didn't. It reminds me. There's a famous. The guy started a very, very famous, animation studio actually, and he said once, that one of the things that I learned from him is, that in his book is that, you will screw up, but make sure that your mistakes are small. Means that you need to kind of you need to course correct very quickly. You need to course correct very quickly. So don't allow your mistakes to grow very big. You don't hide them under the carpet, as they say. Confront them. This is the one way of, that's one lesson that I have learnt quite a bit, that that's something that we follow at the office today also. I tell people it's okay that you make mistakes, but quick and I would say quick and rough is better than articulating things to such an extent and then realize that it's wrong. It's better to be quick and ready and experiment and that kind of thing. So that the idea is that don't get be ready to course correct, be flexible, agile enough to course correct and stuff like that.
So you do promote experimentation in your company?
Absolutely. So apart from promoting experimentation, it's also you want to basically create a culture but people are not scared about making mistakes. In a company, when your firm grows up, should not be scared about making mistakes and stuff. The culture should not be such, that kind of thing. People are scared if it's a culture of very hierarchical or very scared. How can I say this? Then it gets, generally speaking, a lot of things get buried under the carpet, and once then they become so big, they come out, and when they come out, it's irredeemable. That's the problem that one has faced. So that's one thing that I've always kind of followed, that this thing. So that I made very big mistakes, lots of small mistakes and stuff like that. But you also have to learn culture, just socially, that through reading and stuff. You don't be very harsh on yourself. At the big deal. Is it life and death? If you're a doctor, I would say it's life and death. So I keep saying, no, doctor, if you screw up, somebody's going to die. That's serious stuff, man.
Yeah.
I mean, you didn't like one, the way one groove is worked out or something, some proportions of something. Big deal, yeah. It's for you, that kind of a thing. So at one point of time, I used to always say that when a project got complete, honestly speaking, I would get depressed. I would get completely depressed, because I would only look at, the project was over. Now I don't. But at one point I used to get depressed because you only saw the mistakes in the project. You never saw the good things in the project. I could have done this, I could have done this, should have done this is not okay, we should have been careful about this. And as you mature and as you grow, and you realize that it's okay, it's not a big deal. You grow, you look at the big picture, and it's fine. It's fine. So I think that's how it works, I think, according to me.
But this is actually very important, where people are scared of making mistakes. In my experience, like, this kind of mindset is just instilled in the schooling system. For example, exam mein, there's a right answer or a wrong answer. When you step into the real world,
there are no right or wrong answers.
Right, you can make mistakes.
So so it's like this, when you step in the real world, there's nobody to even tell you.
Right.
See, in the real world, there is nobody to tell you is right or wrong. It's all judgment, right? It's a judgment call that you take and stuff like that. So that's what it is.
Right.
That's what it is. So there's no right or wrong answers in the real world. In any case, and especially in a field like architecture, for example, it's a subjective field. No? It's you like my building, you don't like my building. Fair enough. But there's certain nuances, certain basic hygiene. The building has to work. A client is paying you for it, there's a certain program, you have to be responsible also. There's a certain sense of responsibility that also comes in and stuff like that, that kind of a thing.
So you start off early in your architecture in Mumbai.
Early means? Not early.
Early as in with experience. So I'm telling you, after coming to Mumbai, you
coming to Mumbai, there were a lot of young architects, but by Indian standards, I was not early, in the sense I was 31 when I started my practice, 91. Yeah. Came back in 1990 and started my practice in 91. So that's what you see here. 30 years, 1991 to 2021. So 1991 is when we started off. So started off the practice. So I'm 31 when I start the practice and things like that. And that's
when was it where you started getting some momentum in the industry? I wouldn't
say that I can pinpoint any particular time or this thing. I think we started off with, you had one project and you had two projects, and then you got multiple projects, and then you had to hire a couple of people as you grew and stuff like that. And gradually it kind of, gradually it kind of grew and stuff like that, that kind of thing. The first kind of, honestly speaking, we are doing, a range of projects, luckily, that we had between in the first 5-6 years, and honestly got a good break in 1996, where the Piramals, who were coming up with, they wanted to convert an old factory office building, which is Crossroads at Tardev, which was an old factory actually. It was like a pharmaceutical factory for Roche, which they had bought over, and they wanted to convert that into a shopping mall. And they had approached an architect from Singapore to do it, who had done a similar project of conversion in Singapore, DP Architects, very well known big firm, and they were looking for an Indian firm to partner with them because they didn't have an office here, they were based in Singapore. And that time, I had come back from the US, studied there, and they were looking for a young firm to, they didn't want an established firm to do it, they wanted a young firm to do it because that big firm was already there, and they were worried about the fact that if two big firms, established firms would work, there would be clashes and stuff like that. They wanted me to be like a, I would say like a local firm to them, to the Singapore firm, so that there's no kind of ego, this thing. And we also got an attitude that there'll be a lot for us to learn. So so that was the big break, where suddenly the office, by big break I mean not monetarily, it was this thing, but more than that, it was suddenly large project, complex project, lot of learnings, lot of regular, lot of regular kind of with the client, regular travel to Singapore, 4-5-6 times a year. In their office, in this architect's office, they would come here to do presentations. They would ask us a lot of questions about material availability, this, that, etc., etc. Though the other consultants were Indian, like structure and MEP and all that. They didn't want to work with guys there. And suddenly, because of the nature of the project, which was large by standards of that time and even by our standards, suddenly you get you're doing houses which are 10,000 square feet, and suddenly you get a like a mall which is 150,000 square feet. It's large, no? For you, today 150,000 would be small. So anyway, so suddenly we had to expand intellectually, we had to expand physically, in the sense that we had to get a slightly larger office where we had 10-15 people now suddenly working. So from single digit figures of number of people, we grew to double digit. I mean, from under 10. Project. Yeah, with that one project. Yeah, with that we had other projects also going on parallelly. But yeah, so so we needed a team to service that project, which was a fairly serious project. Nobody had done anything like this. So it's a big, very high on the learning curve. Very high on the learning curve.
Right.
So it was first time, lot of first time that we did. Escalators also not known at that point of time in India. We did a car lift because it was a tight project. We did a car lift for the first time, where cars were parked on the terrace of the building and stuff like that because space wasn't available. Now it's very common, you have car lifts and all, but you're talking about 97, 98. The project got occupied in 99. So now we are talking about a good kind of 24, 25 years ago and things like that.
Which mall is this?
Crossroads. It's shut now.
Okay,
it's just Tardev. Yeah, but the images we have, it's very nice, very successful. In fact, it was a problem because problem means when it opened, they were like in Tardev, it's right near Haji Ali, there were like traffic jams and there were police escort because too many people were coming in. There was a real problem, and and it was like controversial in that sense because it just completely disrupted the entire traffic scene in Bombay and stuff like that. So people are not used to it, and there were no malls at that point of time, and that kind of thing. So first time, so it had a family entertainment center and a food court and restaurants, and McDonald's came up there, and that time McDonald's also new in India. McDonald's still operates out of there.
Really?
Yeah, still operates out of there. The mall is shut, but McDonald's is still operating and stuff like that. Yeah. So yeah, so that was suddenly we then grew in size. So that was our big project. 96 to 99 we worked on it 3 years. And then, eventually we realized, and even the client realized that, we had to do a lot of, as I would say, a lot of heavy lifting on that project in terms of responsibility, because the Singapore firm had limitations in terms of, being in Singapore and stuff like that, and, they said that they would only do up to a certain extent. So a lot of the nitty-gritty, nuts and bolts kind of stuff, we had to take care of. And at that point of time, we felt that the client had given us a good break, and I said, let's roll up our sleeves and do it, because at the end we have to deliver the project to the client and stuff like that. And that's what we really did. We just delivered that project full hog, even after the Singapore firm kind of eased out of it at a certain point. When it reached construction stage, the Singapore firm eased out of the project and things like that. They were available on call, but they eased out of the project from day-to-day responsibilities. So we had to take up the day-to-day responsibilities, including having a full-time presence at the site, because lots of issues keep coming up: what to do, what not to do, this, that, etc. Lots of things were being done for the first time on that project and stuff like that. That kind of a thing. So challenging project. Very, very challenging project, including the kind of construction of that, because the existing project and stuff like that, where it wasn't a very large site. We worked with a lot of steel fabrication, so that steel fabrication was kind of some of the steel fabrication trusses, bridges, etc. were all made in a factory, in a gentry in Aurangabad. And me and one more person from the office would go to Aurangabad to inspect it, because then they would be put onto a trailer and come to Bombay, and there's no time to do anything here. It was all prefabricated, because what happened is that this was an inner city site, Tardev, Haji Ali, no place to store. So it would come by a trailer, and they would time it in such a way that it would reach middle of the night here, and they would get a crane to haul it up and put it straight onto site. So there was then no welding, nothing. You can't put on the ground, do all your finishing work. So everything, including painting, had to be finished in Aurangabad at this factory. Large factory, like a large factory, where they would hoist it up on a trailer and with these kind of gang saws and stuff like that. And you actually inspected everything, whether this was okay, ready to be shipped kind of thing. It was like a ready to be shipped kind of a thing. So big learning curve for us. That time, the Singapore firm wasn't also big learning curve for us. So we actually kind of, so that was a big learning curve. And then of course, after that project, I think a lot of people got to know that we were substantially involved with that project with the Singapore firm and stuff like that. And then of course, a lot of other inquiries came up. Our capability also became higher of handling larger scale, complex projects, etc., etc. So, we kind of, moved from, 10, 12 people, we got into like, about 20 people. Now 20 people at that point of time in India was a large firm.
Quite a lot.
At that point of time, not today. Today it would be a small firm, but at that point of time it was a large firm. By large means I would say medium-sized firm and things like that. And then of course, we got a lot of, so then we started doing a lot of kind of mainstream work, as I would call it, larger projects and stuff like that.
Got it.
Yeah.
What's the favorite project you've ever done? What's your favorite?
Lots of them. So let me talk to you about. We have lots of favorite projects, because at a certain point of time. But let me see. So we have a small project that we've done in South Bombay called Vasant Vilas. I'll show you some images of it. But that Vasant Vilas is a small residential apartment project in South Mumbai. Not more than 20,000-30,000 square feet apartment building, but a nice building on Babulnath Road, very nicely located, very nice project. We like that a lot because we could manage. That's one thing. Then we got a chance to do, at the other end of the spectrum, we got a chance to do a large project. We did a campus actually for a very large company called Unilever, Hindustan Unilever, HUL. That's in Andheri. Again, just a lucky break, didn't know anybody at HUL, and they actually, they had a new managing director who had come in from Unilever from South Africa actually. And they were running out of space. They were located in multiple locations across the city actually and across the country. Various divisions, so their food division was based in Bangalore. Some other division, head office was in Back Bay Reclamation in Mumbai near Churchgate. Some other offices somewhere else in the suburbs, and they decided that they wanted to consolidate their presence into a campus. And they had their own land, a large research center and a large kind of factory, and the factory had then been dilapidated, moved out to other locations in India. So they had in Andheri near the airport actually. They had a large piece of land actually, 15-16 acres, which they owned, and they said that why don't we make this into a campus for HUL, a large campus.
So they approached you.
Yeah, they approached us to do a master plan for it, and we did a master plan. Again, we had no background and stuff like that. We presented it to their MD, a guy called Doug Bailey, who's now retired from Hindustan. Then he went on to become the global head of HR at Unilever in London, which is the headquarters. So yeah, they approached us, and we did a kind of a feasibility study for them. Started off with the feasibility study, which is all projects start with small, and then they actually asked us to design the entire campus for them, and it was built, and and stuff like that. So it's a large campus. It's got offices, some laboratories, like a campus would be. It's got a small training center with with residential facilities of 90 rooms. It's like a small hotel, a small clubhouse, a recreation center, and things like that. And yeah, so that's the second big project. The third is actually we've done just outside of Ahmedabad, near Gandhinagar. Actually, we've done a school for the Swaminarayan sect, actually, for the Swaminarayan people in Ahmedabad. Actually, it's called BAPS Girls School actually. In Gandhinagar, just between Ahmedabad and Gandhinagar. It's built again, so it's a girls' residential school, large campus and things like that. So that's one of our other favorites. So what you really see is that there's a kind of we like to work on a diversity of projects. You see, it's not just residential and stuff like that. So and then of course one of our other favorite projects is one of our first for Lodhas. We did the first big residential project, luxury, called Bellissimo, which is located not very far. It's a large 45-story. We had never done a tall building of that tall. Means 50-storied building we had not done, and we did that. So we like the challenge of it's just nice to work on a diversity of projects. So if you notice all these projects, right from small residential stuff to large residential to some institutional work like schools or a campus and stuff like that, because the issues become quite different in each of those projects. The problems that you have to address, solve become very, very different and stuff like that. So that's what keeps it exciting, as I would say.
Novelty keeps it exciting.
Yeah, novelty. You are learning new things, new challenges, this, that, etc., and stuff like that. So even that continues even today after 30 years of practice. Even continues today. For example, suddenly we're doing our first kind of university campus for the government. Now suddenly that becomes a very different cup of tea, like an IIT. It's not an IIT, but it's like an IIT, very similar. So it's got multiple faculties and library and an auditorium and sports facility and hostels and and stuff like that. So it's like an IIT campus currently. Which is
what does your day-to-day look like these days?
Day-to-day these days, every day is the same. No, not same.
Is it just like a management role that you do now?
No. So there are two things that I do. So number one, so there are two, three things that I do. Number one is, I must tell you that one of these young, you guys are young and stuff like that. So one of the things that you must realize is that so we have so I'll just want to tell you, you must listen to this podcast yourself. Which is called Play to Potential. It's by this guy called Deepak Jairaman. Very senior, not senior, he's not senior, he's not as old as I am, but he's a senior guy. So he's actually, he basically, he's a leadership coach actually. And we work with him. So Deepak has an interesting theory. So he says that, generally speaking, there are, people think that there are only two things that you have to worry about. One is home and one is work. But he's saying there are not two things that you have to worry about. There are four things you have to worry about. There are four quadrants in life: home, work, then there's community. How are you affecting the community? The fourth is self, your own self. How are you developing your own self? Beyond work, beyond home, beyond your responsibilities as a husband, father, son, uncle, that family, beyond family, how do you, so self, your own self, what are you doing?
Can you explain these? What does he say?
No, so he says that, so I think to lead a balanced life, you ask me, what does your day look like?
Right.
So the day looks like, you have to address all the 4 things. You have to, for a balanced life, generally mentally a balanced life, you have to address all the 4 things. So you have to, so home and work is very straightforward.
Right.
There's not much, there's not much to explain there and stuff like that. Second is that, are you doing beyond your home and work, are you doing something for the community and stuff like that, whatever, it could be community service, it could be anything, whatever you think you want to do, in which you are making an impact on the world, so to say. Beyond money, beyond this, what is the impact that you are making on the world, kind of a thing. And self means, how are you developing your own self, for example, personally.
Is running that for you?
Yeah, running is that point for me. It could be different for different people. Will do music and stuff like that. So I'm so not only running, but I've realized, to tell you very frankly, that health is a very, very big thing for me.
Which comes under self.
Yeah.
Okay.
Health. Yeah. Take care of your health. Somebody's written a book. You should read a book called The 100-Year Life. Okay. Saying that today now, and this is the problem. So today, for example, longevity has gone up because of medical this thing and stuff like that. So today you could lead a 100-year life. It's not difficult, 90, 100. 100 is just a terminology, but it's called the 100-year life. So he's saying, how you take care of, see, earlier what used to happen is by 60 you retired, that was the deal. So, so earlier we used to lead what is called a very linear life. Means you're a student for the first 20 years of your life. Then from 20 to 60, the next 40 years of your life, or 20 to first 25 years of your life was a student. From 25 to 60, you were work, and then 60 onwards you retired.
Yeah.
You retired. You suddenly thought of God at 60, kind of stuff and things like that,
But now it's a problem, because
it's a problem.
What are you going to do for 40 years?
Yeah. So the problem here is that, the problem now is that it's a problem. So unless you take care of yourself, you have, so the idea is that it's also now not become very linear. So some people are retiring. I'm just giving you an example. Some people are saying that I want to take a break. I don't want to work till, so young guys who made money, do venture capitalists, or people who startups, they sell off their company, Sachin Bansal or okay. They said by 40 मेरे को ये सब नहीं करने का है. I want to chill. At 40 I want to do something else. I'll do something. So now all these things are getting all kind of meshed up. It's not linear. So from linear we are going what I would call a circular way of life. Very circular it's become. So I found this example of this kind of 4 quadrants very, very interesting. That you have to look at all the 4 things, and that's what leads a balanced life. So so the reason is that I try to spend, I wouldn't say a day, but I try to spend my entire week or life or whatever trying to at least address each of those 4 things and stuff like that, that kind of a thing.
Understood.
Yeah, so work is, I'm involved in the office, my roles keep changing, we have a lot of, people in the office who've been with here, so I still, of course I have to look at some management issues, which is my responsibility, but I also review design and stuff like that and things like that. I also do public relations in terms of talking to clients, that's my responsibility. So I wear a lot of hats and stuff like that, and again, as they say, you play to your strengths, so in the office now of 120, 30 people, everybody, and we have a core group of about 8 people, 8 directors who are there, who've been with me for a number of years. So each one has their own strengths, so we kind of play on each other's strengths, you do this, I'll do this, etc., and stuff like that. So this thing, and stuff like that, so self, yeah, so so I would say running is one thing, but taking care of your health, I find it, and health will include some amount of meditation, just not religious meditation. Keeping your mind quiet.
How
For
long
me,
do you
meditation. So I have no fixed rules as such, but I try to meditate every day for about 45 minutes to an hour. I try to meditate between morning and evening. So I do a little bit in the morning when I get up, and then at night, I meditate. I exercise, most days I exercise 2 times a day, one in the morning with a run or something of that sort. I'll end it off in the evening with a swim or something of that sort. I do yoga, just again in terms of stretching, and I run very seriously. I mean, I do marathons across the world, so.
Yeah.
So I do serious marathoning I do, which is serious, long distance running at my age is a serious pursuit and stuff like that. I travel to the run and stuff like that, half marathons, full marathons, half marathons in India, full marathons in India and abroad both and stuff like that.
Got it.
Yeah, you know, so running of course is a serious passion. It's like a hobby. People have singing as a hobby. So that's where the self component. So I think everybody, it's not that everybody should run. You feel like it, you have a passion for it, and you know your body can take it, you should do it. But it's improved my health standards tremendously. My energy levels in the office. So all this kind of plays off each other and stuff like that. And on this community bit, you know, I think it's very, very important where people, you know, we are too obsessed with money as a race. Let me be honest with you. You know, I think we have to, you know, kind of look beyond it. I think there are enough examples in India where people have gone beyond this and stuff like that. You know, where really people have, you know, look at a person like, you know, like Nandan Nilekani, for example. You know, Infosys chief or you know chairman of Infosys. He kind of retired at a certain age. You know, given a lot of his money to charity and stuff like that. He just gave some, I forget the huge value to his alumni IIT Bombay also and stuff like that. He and his wife Rohini. So each one has their own passion. So they are very concerned about water in the rural Karnataka. So education is a big thing for him. So depending, each one has his own passion. Because he feels that, you know, education will get whole of society up. Like what a Warren Buffett does or what a Bill Gates has done. Nandan and lot of corporates are doing it very quietly also here in India and stuff like that. So community, I think, is important and stuff like that. As to what you can really do, it's not just a question of donating money. So to say I don't have the money, aisa wo to hota nahi hai. I don't have that much money to be like as effective as Nandan Nilekani or an industrialist would be. I don't have that money. Yes, we donate and stuff like that, but I don't think that is going to make a dent. So, you know, so how do you kind of, you know, do a dent? So we've decided at our office, for example, that we will help NGOs on architectural projects if they have anything and stuff like that. Yeah. So we work on 2 pro bono, and we do that completely free. We do 2 pro bono projects a year. So currently, so we helped a few years ago, we helped a foundation called the Jai Vakil Foundation. You can look them. Jai Vakil actually works with, let me get the right word, basically special needs children, mentally, from an economically lower background. I mean, they are not rich people, they are very, very poor people. Especially abled children or special needs children, people who have autism, people who have various kinds of these things, and they actually have a school for 500 kids. They have a campus here in Abhyudaya Nagar, Sivri, not very far from here. So they came to us a few years ago, before pre-COVID, to say that, you know, some friends who were volunteers there, and they got a donor, a bank, a large bank, as part of their CSR, international bank, Credit Suisse, to say that we want to give you a large sum of money, but our one condition is that we will not give you a donation for your general expense or just a donation to the trust. We want you to use it for infrastructure improvement only. So they had no clue and they got donation, they used it to run the school, you know, pay teachers, pay principal, improve a little bit here, there, ek toilet ko renovate karo, ye, wo, aisa ko, just to survive, as I would call it, survival mode. You know, it was like hand to mouth kind of a situation, because they would never charge money from students or very little and stuff like that. They got some grants from the government of Maharashtra and stuff like that, you know, that kind of thing. So anyway, so they came to us that, do you think you can help us? We got a large sum of money, we don't know how to, we want to use it effectively. So we did a master plan for their campus, how we could improve their campus and stuff like that. We did completely pro bono. That got implemented. It was there 75 years and stuff like that. So he's saying it's your 75 years, we'll give you 75 lakhs. Now they had never got that large of money. One check of 75 lakhs, period, no questions asked. But one condition, only use it for infrastructure. You can't use it for anything else. And you show us how we're going to use it. So we did a presentation to Jai Vakil, and they went and showed it to the bank. Bank said, fine. You've got a architect, you've got this thing, good, we trust it, we'll give you the money, do it, end of the story. And he's saying, no questions asked, we'll come for the inauguration, call us. That's it, period. And that's how we kind of, so that's where the first project we got into and stuff like that. Then we worked with other, another religious institute came to us, a Jain religious institute. They wanted to do a kind of a meditation center. Okay, will you help us? Again, it's a pro bono kind of a thing, so we help them. Just how we're working on another trust we're doing, somebody's donated them the land just outside on the Maharashtra-Gujarat border in a place called Uttan. it's on the Maharashtra-Gujarat border. Somebody's donated the land to them, and they want to do hospice. You know what a hospice is? It's basically it's like a old people's home actually.
Okay.
So people who can't take care of themselves, then they get old. So some will be paid for, some will be free, some will be from across backgrounds. So it's like an old people's home. It's a hospice where basically they have some medical help, and it's not that this thing, or sometimes if there's some terminally ill patients also. Kids are abroad, kids don't stay here. Kids can't take care of the parents, etc. So we're doing a 50-bed, 50-room hospice for them in Uttan, and so again we're doing it free of cost for them and stuff like that. So in fact they're taking our plans and going to donors. Again, it's very similar to say that okay, we've got this plan, we've got this land, we've got an architect who's working on it free of cost, who's helping us see through this project. Will you help us with donations? So they're collecting money based on that, and then they will build the project at some point of time. And stuff like that. So this is to do with that community bit. So you have to do. So my expertise is in architecture. So as a firm, we do this across the board, and it encourages other younger people who are working here also. They realize what is happening and stuff like that, that kind of a thing and stuff like that.
This is actually a good way to live: home, self, office, and community.
Yeah, so that's something that is not my doing, but this is something that I've learned, So you read, learn this thing. So exactly, the idea is that it's 4 quadrants, and if you take care of all the 4 quadrants, I think at least I would say, whether you're happy or not happy, I don't know, but at least you will lead a balanced life.
But just one question regarding that. If you just focus on one, let's say office, are you more likely to just become a master at it? You could. Compared to, you kind of,
depending on what you want to do.
Okay.
Depending on what you want to do, you want to become a master at one, but at a certain point of time, you might question yourself. And so, you get burnt out and you say, now what else, So you've got 10 projects. Your turnover has gone up. I've become 100 people. What else now? I want to become 200 people. If that's what excites you, fair enough. Yeah, there's no problem in that. We've never had personally, I've never had the philosophy or an ideology that today I want to grow so much this year. We don't start the year saying that we want to grow so much or we want our turnover. We don't have any such aspirations. We want to run a good office. We want to be happy with the work that we do. At the end of it, everybody in the office and ourselves, I think that's a culture that we set up, is that, you should feel happy coming to the office every day. As long as we can do that, big deal, yeah.
Done. I think we should wrap up now.
Yeah,
that was a wonderful interview.
Good.
Yeah.
I'm glad. Thank you. Thank you, Shrey. Glad you're doing something like this. Good. But you should talk to younger people.
Yeah, definitely.
It'll be good for you, I think.
Yeah.
You talk to Varun, actually.